My name's Naomi Richmond, and I'm a Vietnam War widow, an Agent Orange widow. My husband David was killed in Vietnam. He was killed by Agent Orange. It took 45 years for the killing to end before he actually died. There are many of us, too many of us Vietnam War Agent Orange widows, with more joining our ranks every day. This is not some secret society. It's not a group that anyone would wish to join, but it is a sisterhood of warrior wives fighting for the rights our government has denied and is still denying our husbands. I'd love it if you could meet my husband. You would like him. He's tall, dark, handsome. He was the man every little girl dreams to someday grow up and marry. He was smart. He was funny. He was loving and caring. He was the most honest person I ever met. He was a hard worker. He'd do anything for anyone. He was the son every mother would be proud to have. He loved life, and he was so talented. He could play any instrument you handed him. He could play any song he heard after just hearing it once. He didn't know how to read or write music, but he could make music. Oh, and sing. He could melt your heart if you heard him sing with his deep and sexy voice. Yes, I'd love it if you could meet my husband, David, but unfortunately you can't. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm a widow. Our government killed my husband in Vietnam. It just took 45 years of suffering for him to die. He was stationed in Da Nang, Vietnam, with the 15th Aerial Port Squadron in 1968, 1969. He was there for the Tet. He was an air transport specialist, and he loaded Agent Orange onto the planes and helicopters. He also unloaded the empty barrels. Our government said it was safe to use these empties as fire pits to keep warm on the flight line. It was okay to use them as fire pits to keep warm in their bunkers. Our government told them it was safe to use the empty barrels as barbecue pits. Our government told them it was safe to use Agent Orange as mosquito and bug repellent. They didn't want them to get malaria after all. It's been 11 weeks and 6 hours, but it feels more like 11 minutes and 6 seconds since February 16th, 2014. It's been the longest 11 weeks and 6 hours of my life since the night David died. Will it ever stop hurting so much, I wonder? I ask him, "Do you want me to make some popcorn?" We usually have popcorn every night. David answers from the bedroom, "No thanks, Huns, not tonight. I'm just going to lay down for a bit." It's a few minutes after 9 p.m. I go back to the kitchen to the digital art piece that I'm working on. 10, maybe 15 minutes goes by. Passes, I hear a crash and run into the bathroom. David, my handsome, the love of my life, my best friend for the last 27 years, and my husband of 1 month and 2 days shy of our 25th wedding anniversary, lies face down on the floor of our bathroom. I'm trained in CPR and I feel for a pulse. I can't find one. I run back into the bedroom, grab the phone, and turn on the oxygen concentrator that produces the oxygen that I use every night while I sleep, and I place the cannula around David's ears and I insert the ends into his nostrils. 30 seconds has elapsed since I'd heard the crash. I again feel for a pulse. I try to turn David over to begin CPR. I can't turn him over. I'm crying. I'm yelling, "Don't you die on me, David. Don't you dare die on me." The 911 operator is asking me. I'm answering them and begging her to make the ambulance arrive faster, and I'm crying and I'm trying to turn David over, but I can't. I can't turn him over, and I'm crying and I'm telling him to open his eyes. I'm yelling at him, "Don't you die on me. I can't do this without you. Don't you know how much I love you? Don't you die on me." And I'm still trying to turn him over, and I can't, and I'm pounding on his back trying to do CPR from behind. I remember the front door is locked, and I run and unlock the door and swing it open wide. I grab our little dog and I put him in his crate so he can't run out the door. And I run back into the bathroom. I still can't turn David over, and I'm crying and I'm holding his hand and I'm begging him to squeeze my hand if he can hear me. But I can feel nothing. And I'm crying. And I'm yelling at the 911 operator, "Where's the ambulance?" She's assuring me it's almost here. I see the clock. It's 9:26 p.m. and I'm crying and I'm pleading and I'm begging David to breathe. The EMTs are here and they're telling me to get out of the way. And They can't turn him over in such a small space. And they drag him face down out of the bedroom, out of the bathroom into the bedroom. I'm telling them to be careful. They're going to hurt him. I yell at them to watch his arm. They're scraping it on the door and it's bending backwards. And then they turn him over and they're cutting his t-shirt down the front and putting electrodes on his chest. And I can see the machine, the line is just flat. And I'm trying to hold his hand and stroke his forehead, and they're telling me to get out of the way. And they're saying, clear. And they put the paddles on my love's chest. His upper torso rises off the floor and falls back down. And I see the machine, and the line is flat. And I'm crying. And I'm asking the EMTs if they can find a pulse, but they don't answer. I'm begging David, please don't die, but I know. Deep in my heart, I know, and the EMTs are trying to insert a tube down his throat, and they finally get it inserted. I look at the machine that is sitting in the middle of the bed we'd shared for 27 years, the bed where we'd laughed, the bed where we'd made love, where we'd giggled and made plans for our future, and I look at their machine, and the line is flat. They've got him on the stretcher now, and they're taking him outside. I'm grabbing our little dog and my purse and locking the door and following him outside. They're putting him in the back of the ambulance and closing the door, and I know. I'm crying, and the policeman is asking me if I'm going to follow in my car. And am I okay to drive? And is there someone he can call? And do I have a family close by that can go with me? And I'm crying. I'm trying to answer him, yes, I'll follow in my car. And I don't know if I'm okay to drive, but I guess I'll have to be, because the dog doesn't know how, and there's no one else. And no, there is no one he can call. And no, I do not have any family close by. And no, there is no one that can go with me. And the ambulance drives off, and it's silent. No lights, no siren. It's suddenly so quiet. So very, very quiet. And there's just me and our little dog. I sit in my car for a moment, and I cry, and I know. I call my older sister. She lives in another state, and I tell her David just died. She says, oh, no. How do you know? And I'm sure. And are you sure? And is anyone there with you? And maybe he isn't dead. Maybe you just think he died. And I start my car, and I see the clock on the radio, and it's 9:33 p.m. I'm puzzled. How is it possible, I wonder, for my life to have changed so drastically in less than 7 minutes? But I know that it has. I tell my sister that I'm sure David died, and I ask her to call my friend and ask my friend if she can come and be with me at the hospital. And I'm driving, and I'm crying, and our little dog is standing in my lap, and he's trying to lick the tears as they stream down my cheeks. I'm driving and crying and begging David, please not be dead when I get to the hospital. I'm making bargains with God, and I'm making bargains with David. Just please let him not be dead. But I know. I get to the hospital, and I can't breathe. I feel like I'm suffocating. My heart has been ripped out of my lungs. Out through my lungs, I look down, and I'm sure I'll see a gaping hole where my heart had been. I wonder why I don't look any different. I'm crying, and I don't know how to get to the emergency room since the hospital was remodeled. Someone gets me a wheelchair and wheels me through a maze. Nothing is clear. I'm sitting in the waiting room, and I'm crying, and I'm telling them they just brought my husband in by ambulance, and I tell them I'm suffocating. Someone brings me an oxygen tank and puts the cannula on me. They take me through the doors and wheel me down the hallway that goes on forever. They wheel me into a little room. They tell me someone will be with me shortly to talk to me. They leave me, and I know, and I'm crying, and it's 9:47 p.m. 2 people come in, and I tell them not to tell me. I tell them I already know, and they say they have to tell me. But I don't want them to. I don't want it to be real. If they don't tell me, it won't be real. I don't want it to be real, but I know it is. They ask me, do I want to go sit with him? And I tell them no. I don't want to. I want him to get up and come home with me because he's not dead. It's not real. I tell them to stop lying to me, but I know. They just look at each other and they say nothing. And they look at me with pity in their eyes. And I can see relief in their eyes. Relief that it's me and not them whose husband is dead. I want to scream at them and tell them not to look at me with pity. I want to scream at them that my David is not dead. But I don't. And they wheel me down the hall and into a room. The love of my life, my best friend, my handsome, my David. My husband of 1 month and 2 days shy of our 25th wedding anniversary. is lying on a bed, and he's so still. And I know he's just sleeping. He's going to wake up and we're going to go home. I stare at the sheet covering his chest. I'm willing it to rise and fall. I'm straining with my ears to hear him make that little pff sound he makes when exhaling. But the sheet isn't moving. And the only sound I hear are my tears as they cascade down my face. The only thing I see is the stiff tube sticking out of his mouth that the EMTs had inserted while at our house. And it looks like he's choking on it. And I tell them, take it out of his mouth. He can't breathe with it in there. And they tell me they can't. They have to wait for the coroner. I don't want the coroner to come. David doesn't need the coroner. He's not dead. He's going to get up and come home with me. I know. But I know. There's a sheriff's deputy sitting here, and he's talking to me. I can see his lips moving, but I don't know what he's saying. I can't hear anything except from the pounding in my ears. And my tears, they're so loud as they make their way down my face and drop off my nose and my chin with a loud splash as they land in my lap. I reach over and I slip David's wedding ring off onto my finger. And I ask, is it all right if I have it? I'm sure the officer is saying something. I don't know what. I can only hear the pounding in my ears, but I guess it's okay for me to wear it because he doesn't take it away from me. I'm stroking David's forehead and check and tell him I love him. I love him so much. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm begging David to please tell me what I'm supposed to do without him. I yell at him that he wasn't supposed to die, that he promised me he would always be with me. I tell him he promised he'd never leave me. And I keep saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, David. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Tell me what I'm supposed to do, David. And I just want him to open his eyes, and I just want him to hold me and tell me everything will be okay. But he doesn't. And I know it will never be okay again. I tell him I want him to stop being dead. I want him to stop being dead and come home with me, and my tears are so loud, splashing into my lap. I hear someone crying, and I realize it's me. I hear someone saying my sister is here, and is it okay if she comes in with me and sits? I wonder how my sister got here. And then my friend is holding my hand, and she's crying. And I try to get David's T-shirt out from under him so I can hold it and smell him in the fabric, but I can't lift him. The deputy lifts David up, and he slides David's T-shirt out from under him, and he hands it to me, and I bury my face in his shirt, and it's still warm. And it still smells so like David. And I ask, is it okay if I keep it? And I'm crying, and my friend is crying, and I'm wondering where my sister is because I said she was here, but I don't see her. The deputy tells me he has to take pictures of David's body and asks me, do I want to stay while he takes them? But I say, no, I can't. David would be so embarrassed to have me watch someone take naked pictures of him. I ask the deputy if he knows where my sister is, and he tells me that he doesn't. My friend tells me that the nurses wouldn't let her come be with me unless she was a relative, so she told them she was my sister. The deputy and my friend leave the room so I can be alone with David for a few minutes, for the last time. I don't want a few minutes. I want the rest of my evers like we promised each other when we got married. We promised we'd be together for the rest of our evers, but now I'm alone. The silence is so loud. It's so very, very loud. March 18th, 2014 was one of the hardest and yet at the same time most beautiful days of my life. It was the 25th anniversary of the day I married to my best friend, my soulmate, the love of my life, David Richmond. We didn't celebrate the day the way we'd planned, renewing our vows in the same little chapel up there in South Lake Tahoe, where we'd gotten married. We still spent the day together, but we spent it at the Sacramento Valley National Cemetery in Dixon, California. It was a beautiful, sunshiny day, not like when we got married. When we got married, it was cold, it was raining, it was snowing. The four of us, my girlfriend that had been at the hospital with me, my little dog Buddy, myself, and David's cremains, we made the 2-hour trip. Yes, it was one of the hardest days of my life and the most beautiful days of my life. Our country was finally recognizing the love of my life as being the caring, wonderful man that he was, an American hero. He gave his life for our country. He asked for nothing in return. He didn't ask for pats on the back or even for any acknowledgement. He went because our country asked. He went because our country said they needed him. And like so many generations of young men before him, he answered the call. They were all only boys when they left, just like the ones before. There were some from little towns or farms and some from city streets, but in their eyes they were all men, answering the call of their country. David wasn't atypical. He was a big city streetwise 18-year-old man. When he enlisted, he was ready to go fight for God and Mom and apple pie and the American way of life. But truthfully, he, like all the others, was really still a child. He boarded a plane for boot camp and asked where the parachutes were kept. Were they under the seats, or was he supposed to have his own because he hadn't been issued one yet? Like all the others when they left, he was still just a man-child, off to do his best. He didn't deserve the illnesses and nightmares our country gave him, which then denied he ever had. No one told them they were off to fight a lie. He went because our country said they needed him, and that made it right, and it made it his duty. He told me it didn't take him long in country to see that had they been sent with building plans, and had they built schools and houses and McDonald's, instead of with guns and rockets and defoliants meant only to maim and dismember, that the enemy would have thrown down their arms and come begging to join the other side. But David never asked for praise. He never asked for pats upon the back. He never asked for any acknowledgement. He didn't ask before he left, "Is this war popular?" Because I'm not going if it's not. He went because his country said they needed him, and that was reason enough. There were no ticket tape parades when David came home from war, no screaming girls wanting kisses from returning heroes like there always was before. No champagne flowing, no welcome home, no flags a-waving, nope. The only crowds these heroes faced, yes, heroes, our country called and they answered. The only crowds these heroes faced when they brought their battered souls and bodies home were the angry crowds that spit on them and called them baby killer. One day I found a letter addressed to Howard Richmond. My hero's name was David, so I wondered who this was. He told me Howard died in Vietnam. Only David had come home. They might not all have changed their name, but the heroes on the wall weren't the only ones that died. Today, our country finally acknowledged what I have known for so long. David was a hero and a man of honor. He was the very definition of a man. He fought for the rights of those who spit on him, not because he liked to be spit on, but because he fought for their right to spit. Today our country acknowledged what I've known for so long, that David, like so many others, was a hero. They thanked my husband David today for giving our country his all. While Howard David might have died in Vietnam, you won't find his name on any wall. I cried when they blew taps today and then presented me the flag. These weren't the tears of goodbye for my hero. They were the tears of sadness that our country took so long. Our country took so long to acknowledge and recognize what he had given up for us. They should have thanked and honored him before giving us his all, for giving us his all. They should have thanked and honored him while he stood so proud and tall. He deserved to hear the thank you before the goodbyes were said. He deserved to be acknowledged before my tears were shed. I share my story, David's story, with you because there's still so many who are being ignored. Our government's forgotten about them. Our government's given up on them. Please, write your congressman. We have to stop doing this to our children. We have to stop sending them places that destroy their bodies and their souls, destroy their lives, and then pretend that we didn't. We owe them. We owe them. And to deny them, to deny their pain, to deny their suffering, to deny what we put them through, it's not who we are. We're We're Americans. We look after our own. This is not what they deserve. David used to say to me, this is not the America I grew up in. This is not the America I fought for. I don't know where my country went to, he'd say, but this is not the country that asked me to go fight for it. This is not the country. My country would not have given up on me. My country would not have said, no, we owe you nothing. We owe you nothing. You have the wrong disease. Sorry. I don't know. I just can't. Please contact your congressman. Don't let them be forgotten again. Do you know that in less than 5 years, there won't be about maybe 800 Vietnam veterans alive? Do you think that sounds strange? I do. You want to know why? Do you want to know why Vietnam veterans die faster? Like over 400 Vietnam veterans die every day. They die faster than any veterans of any other war before. I know why. I know because of what our government exposed them to and then brought them home. Our government said, shh, don't talk about this ever again. Keep it all inside. Because if you mention it, we're just going to deny it. We're going to say, no, you lie. You lie. Doesn't that sound funny? Kind of like the towns in Vietnam. You lie, Chu lie, Wei, Da Nang, you lie. Don't let our government keep doing this to them. They deserve so much more. Write to your congressman. Tell them they need to approve. They need to approve every single Vietnam veteran. They need to declare every single one of them 100% disabled. They've stolen not only their lives, they've stolen the lives of their families, the lives of their wives, the lives of their children. David and I, we just got started, you know? We just got started. It was supposed to be our time. He was only 65. He was only 65. My dad's 89. My dad fought in World War II. My dad is still going strong. And my husband, my big, strong, handsome husband at 65, isn't here. He couldn't work these last years, you know, because of the monsters that lived in his head. The torments and the nightmares. You know, on our first date, David taught me how to hold a knife and how to slit somebody's throat. You don't hold a knife like this, just pointing it like this. No, no, no. You have to hold it like this. And when you swing across like this, then you come back like this across, and that slices their throat. Now, I'd managed to live 35 years without knowing this. But David thought it was really important that I know how to survive. This man was tortured. He was tortured from his time in Vietnam. No, he wasn't a POW. Viet Cong didn't torture him. Our government tortured him. He lived in a constant vigilant state. He had to have a gun within reach at all times. He never felt safe. He never felt safe in his own home. He never felt safe in his own house. He never felt safe. He couldn't rest. He couldn't let down his guard. He had to be constantly on alert because there might be somebody. There might be something. We had to keep our eyes open. We had to be alert. We had to be ready because my big, strong, handsome husband, he was never afraid of anything, but he couldn't relax. He couldn't relax. This is what our government did to him. This is what our government did to all of them. It's unconscionable, I tell you. It's just unconscionable. Don't let them do this to anyone else. Don't let them do this. Hold our government accountable. Make them pay for what they've done. It's just not right. No, it's just not right. Please. Remember them. Thank you.